The North Coast 500 is Scotland's ultimate road trip. It's over 500 miles of winding roads, dramatic cliffs, white sand beaches, and tiny villages at the edge of the map. We only had 3 days to experience it, but we made the most of our time and fell in love with this special part of Scotland. If you want to see all of these spots on an interactive map, check out the Patreon and let's jump into the road trip. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Starting our North Coast 500 journey right now. We spent the previous night in Inverness, which is the start of the North Coast 500, and then we got up and we went to the bakery for breakfast before heading out. This is a popular place with locals and it has a lot of great pastry options. If you have the time, Inverness is often called the capital of the Highlands as it's the biggest city in this part of Scotland. There's lots to explore here, including the River Ness, which flows through the city, and the Inverness Castle, but unfortunately that was under construction when we were there, so we just walked around the downtown a little bit before heading out. One thing to note as we start our drive on the North Coast 500 is that this is not the typical road trip that you're used to seeing on this channel. When you're in the United States, road trips are way different as there's lots of places where you can pull out with your car and take in a lot of the things that you're seeing as you're driving. But in the United Kingdom, there's not a lot of turnouts, so most of what you experience is from the road as you're driving through it. And often if you see a beautiful view, there's not actually a way for you to get out and experience it other than to just take it in from the car. Of course, if we did find a pullout near something we wanted to see, we always stopped for it. The first point of interest you'll get to is the Cromarty Bridge, which crosses a waterway that played a role in both World Wars as the home for the Royal Navy's fleet. And then if you're interested in stopping for one of Scotland's best known whiskies, then head to Glenmorangie. It was a little early for us to try whiskey as we had just started our drive though, so we continued on. Drive on the left side of the road. Almost as soon as you leave the distillery, you'll cross the Dornoch 5th Bridge. It's over 3,000 feet and it opened in 1991, and before it was built you had to add 20 miles to your journey just to get around this portion. Luckily there was a pull-off here so we could fully take this one in, and it had an amazing reflection with smooth water.
This is incredibly beautiful, and like I was saying to Josh, the contrast between the clouds coming in with the rain and the beautiful sun over here is just amazing.
Look at those wildflowers and how smooth the water is. Perfect start to the trip. Continuing on, we drove another 15 minutes to the town of Dornoch, and if you're following along, we're actually an hour outside of Inverness already. We were able to easily find parking in the city, and then we headed over to the Dornoch Cathedral. This was founded in 1224, making it 800 years old, and it holds the title of being the most northerly cathedral on mainland Britain. It's not all original though, as it was badly damaged during the Scottish Reformation, and it was in ruins for centuries before it was restored in the 1800s. One of the most interesting things about the cathedral is it actually has some unicorn stained glass inside of it. That's a beautiful old cathedral, and its sign said that on Saturday nights you can actually go up into the tower, which would be pretty cool as well. But as we were walking out, we saw the best hot chocolate in the world, and so figured we had to try that before heading on. Cocoa Mountain has become a staple on the North Coast 500, and it's not hard to see why when you look at this hot chocolate. So this is the hot chocolate. They actually drizzle Belgian chocolate on top, so I think it's going to be incredibly sweet, but probably very good. And then you can get a chocolate chaser, which comes with 4 different truffles you can pick from.
Have you ever seen anything that even has looked this decadent? This, I mean, just look at this and you gain weight. I'm so excited. This looks amazing. Wow, I love that the hot chocolate itself is bitter, really good. Dark chocolate is bitter, and the stuff on top is so creamy. It kind of is a good balance between the bitter and the smooth creaminess of the chocolate on top. Really, really nice.
Pops is saying best hot chocolate you've ever had?
No argument, no doubt at all. It's got to be the best. I don't drink a lot of it, but that is far and away the best I've ever had.
My best is still the Angelina in Paris. That place is next level. Heading on. Continuing on, we left the small town and headed into the beautiful Scottish countryside. Luckily on this drive, you're only in towns a little bit and you're mostly in nature getting amazing views. And from there we headed on to the most popular attraction in the entire North Coast 500, the Dunrobin Castle. Parts of this castle date back to the 1300s, making it one of the oldest continuously inhabited castles in the north.
So it's interesting with these deer heads, how they note the trophy, 12 points, and when it was killed. Interesting.
1896. While the castle itself is old, it was redesigned in the 1800s, and most of what you see today dates back to that. Inside, you'll find rooms filled with art, antiques, and family heirlooms, including portraits of clan leaders and nobility.
Wow, look at the gardens out there. Those are incredible.
I found the highlight to be the library, which has over 10,000 books collected over the centuries. And it has 2 lion skins on the ground, which are pretty wild to see. We spent about 30 minutes walking around the interior, but if you're a fan of this type of thing, I'm sure you could spend a lot more time. My wife probably would have spent at least an hour walking through the rooms. Your ticket also includes access to the grounds, so that's what we headed to next, and there was actually a falconry exhibit that was about to happen in the gardens. What's fascinating about touring the castle is that was about 16 rooms, and they told me that there's around 180 rooms in the castle. So you can see less than 10%, and it feels like you're seeing a decent amount of the castle, so that thing must be massive. The formal gardens connected to the castle actually stretched down to the sea, and we were told that they were inspired by the Palace of Versailles. There's a deer running through the garden. I don't know if you can see him, but he ran right in front of Pops, right there. I think this is some of the most beautiful manicured gardens I've seen during my time in the UK. It's just absolutely stunning the way that they keep it up. We found the gardens to be bursting with colorful flowers, and I loved the geometric design and how it highlighted the castle behind it. One of the most memorable parts of a visit to Dunrobin Castle, though, is the daily falconry show that they have in the gardens. Here you can find birds of prey like falcons, hawks, and owls all take to the sky as the falconer demonstrates century-old practices. There was no seats 20 minutes before it started, so if you want to sit and enjoy it, be sure to get there early. That was a great stop. It was well priced. It's a cool castle to explore. The gardens are incredible. There's a falconry show. Great stop. We're about 5 minutes away from the castle. We drove up this 1-lane road to a sign for Big Burn Walk, and that's the little parking area right there. So we parked in this upper car park right here, and then all of the waterfalls are basically right near the car park. You ready to do some hiking, Pops?
Absolutely.
Look at this beautiful green we got here.
Yeah, what is this about? Wow.
Also, shout out to another YouTuber, I can't remember what his name is, but he created a great guide on the North Coast 500. We had done a bunch of research, but last night I stumbled on it right before we were starting this trip, and I bought the digital copy, and it's absolutely fantastic. I wish I would have had it months ago when I started planning, so I will link to it in the description if you want to pick up a copy. But that's the reason why we found this spot, was because of him. This is a pretty easy hike at a less than a half-mile round trip, and it does go downhill the entire way, so uphill the whole way back. There's the overview, but you can't really see much. We gotta go down to get to it. That's a low-hanging tree. I can't wait to videotape how Pops gets under that. All right, let's see Pops navigate the low tree without hurting himself. Wow, he's nimble for a 90-year-old.
That is a low tree.
I'm just having to constantly pinch myself. I am hiking in Scotland. Never thought I'd be able to do this, and it's just as incredible as I hoped it would be. Once you make it down, there's a couple bridges that you cross, and then you follow the creek all the way up to the main waterfall. Wow, look at this canyon we are walking into.
This canyon is amazing. It's gorgeous.
I'm guessing the waterfall is right around the bend. Wow, incredible. Look at how the white pops with all the dark colors of the rocks.
Oh my God. It's just right here in front of you. You couldn't get much closer to that. Wow.
It's not a very tall waterfall, but with the multiple little cascades and just the beautiful surroundings, it's definitely well worth doing. I don't know what it is about Scotland, but we have seen so many beautiful places over the last 4 days. It's hard to even describe how amazing this country is. It almost feels like it's healing to your soul or something to just go hike around and to see all these beautiful things. I don't know if that makes sense, but let me know in the comments.
And the things are unique. We've seen a lot of places, but Scotland is so very different in a variety of ways.
Now all there is left to do is to climb back out and get Pop some haggis for his haggis tasting. Leaving here, it was a 40-minute drive to get to our lunch spot, and along the way we were basically hugging the coast the entire time. We were also greeted with yellow flowers in every direction, and you would come around bends and see mountains full of these yellow flowers. Adding to that, the small towns, the beautiful churches, the rugged rock walls, and all the farms. And it's one of those drives that really felt magical, and you just weren't in a hurry to get to your destination. Again though, there's not really any pull-offs, so you have to experience it from your car. For lunch, we stopped at a spot that multiple people had told us about called the River Bothy. And when we walked in and saw the collection of pastries, each looking better than the last, we knew we were at someplace good. After placing an order for a couple sandwiches and some treats, we walked around the small shop while we were waiting for our food.
Enjoy your poo, all right?
Made in-house every day.
We'll see how we do here. This is really nice. This one is really, really nice.
All right, Pops has got his fourth way he's doing haggis. I will again kick it back to his video on his haggis tasting of Scotland. And I have just a regular roast beef sandwich, which looks incredible.
Okay, Josh is being brave, and he's going to try haggis.
Toasty, it sounded interesting. It's very good. I like the grilled onion chutney on there. It's got a good kind of rich taste almost to it. I don't know. I'm in. I like it. Haggis toasty.
That was a fantastic spot for lunch. Such good food, awesome people, and we even got some treats to take with us because everything in that tree cabinet looked so good. Heading on to do some hiking because that's what you need to do after you eat all that food that we just ate.
Right. Yeah, drag me along with you while you hike.
On our way to our next stop, we hugged the coast again, going to the Wallago Steps, where we actually got to meet the person who keeps them up. I'll let Davey, the protector of the stairs, tell you the history as we make our way down.
Wallago Steps were built in 1792. They got the name Wheligo because whales got washed up dead on the shores. There was 365 steps, one for every day of the year. This picture was taken in 1945. That was my grandfather's boat. The boat beside my granddad's, William Sinclair, lived in the house just over in the field. Now, the herring fishing is only 2 months of the year. Herring's just passing. The steps were fished every day. Now, it was the woman who had to carry the fish up the steps on baskets on their back. Then they had to walk to the town of Wick, 7 miles. They were a real strong woman in those days. That just gives you an idea of the steps.
Huge shout out to Davey, that guy is awesome, and it's so cool that he loves the steps as much as he does. It was a very big highlight to meet him. The Wallago Steps are basically a man-made wonder in this part of Scotland. Built in the 1700s and by the 1800s, there was many boats working out of the tiny harbor, making it a surprisingly busy fishing station despite its remote and dangerous setting. This is just an incredible spot. It is so beautiful down here, and then knowing the history is so cool as well. This is the first time we've been rained on our trip in Scotland, and of course it would be when we're at the bottom of 360 steps. Definitely give yourself some time for this one. It takes a long time to go up and down the stairs, and the views the entire way are magical. All right, now to head back up. Also, do note that my dad decided not to go all the way down as it was affecting his knees with the uneven stairs, so note that if it's something you might struggle with as well. That was a lot of steps back up, but that's definitely a highlight of this trip so far. So beautiful down there. Heading on, we traced the 7 miles that the women used to walk carrying their fish on our way to the town of Wick. We were really hoping to visit a distillery on this trip, but they're all closed on Saturday and Sunday when we're coming through. But here's another one you can go to if you're here and it's not a Saturday or Sunday. There's one other unique claim to fame that the city of Wick has. Ebenezer Place is known as the smallest street in the world at around 6 feet in length. So basically Pops is covering the entire street right there. This is the shortest street in the world, measured 2 meters or 6 feet 9 inches long. Oh, Pops, you were only 6'7", you didn't cover the whole street.
I didn't stretch the whole thing, yeah.
This street has a single postal address, which is the entrance to the number 1 bistro. So there you go, there's its one postal address, number 1 on Ebenezer Place. You guys know there was no way we weren't stopping to see that, right? On the way out of Wick, if you have time, I highly recommend you take the 20-minute drive over to one of the famous castles along the coast. This is Castle Sinclair Gurnago. There's not much left of the castle out there, but this is what it would have looked like. It's about a half mile to make the walk out to the castle itself, and it's dramatically perched on the sea cliffs overlooking Sinclair's Bay. It's actually the remains of 2 connected castles, one built in the 1400s and another added in the 1600s. At one point in time, they formed one of the largest medieval fortresses in the north of Scotland. By the 1600s, the castle was all but abandoned due to centuries of feuding and shifting power. Since then, storms and erosion have continued to pick away at it, and what you see is what is left today. It's completely free to visit, and it's one of the most unique historical stops along the coast.
I don't know how long this castle is gonna last. A lot of it is already off limits because of the way that it's just deteriorating into the ocean. Incredibly cool to see. That was another huge highlight, how cool the ruins of that castle are. What'd you think, Pops?
Yeah, and it's listed as one of the most endangered historical sites, so hopefully they can keep it up. It's gorgeous and so unique out on this peninsula, but it could be lost.
In case you were wondering, I was really hoping to fly my drone out there, but it's about a mile away from an airport, so it's in a no-fly zone, and then there was 2 other no-fly zones that overlapped it as well. So probably not a great place to fly a drone. We saw some low-flying jets come through the area as well. Figured now's as good a time as any to eat my Millionaire's bar, and I can confirm that it's good.
Getting back in the car, we headed along the coast to one of the most northern parts of mainland Britain. It's a long and windy 1.5 lane road to get all the way out here, but here you can find 2 unique places, the Dunnet Head Lighthouse and the Stacks.
We made it all the way out to the point where the lighthouse is at. This is the parking area for it, and then you can walk that way and there's sea stacks out there.
The lighthouse was built in 1924, and I have to say it's a little anticlimactic as you can't really get very close. That being said, the views from the parking lot over the cliffs are amazing, and if you take the half-mile walk out to the stacks, you'll definitely be rewarded.
There's also just free-roaming sheep as well.
The Dunnet stacks are sharp, jagged rock pillars that rise straight out of the sea, some over 200 feet high. They're considered some of the best examples of sea stacks in the UK, and geologists estimate that the stacks are around 400 million years old. The largest of the group is known as the Great Stack, and it's often compared to a cathedral spire rising from the ocean.
Spent about an hour hanging out there, but how can you blame me? That's just an incredible viewpoint. Could have spent more time, but we got a few more things to do before ending the day. It's hilarious that the sheep are just hanging out in the parking lot.
Leaving here, it's only a 15-minute drive to one of the most popular tourist attractions, John O'Groats.
I think this is our first one on the Scotland trip. Which one are you going to be, Pops? Oh yeah, that one fits you perfectly. Well done. The main thing you do in John O'Groats is to take a picture with this sign right over here.
John O'Groats is the symbolic end of the road marking the most northeasterly village on mainland Britain. And here you'll find a famous signpost that everybody stops to take a picture with.
It's only 3,230 miles to New York from here.
It became famous as the finishing line for the Land's End journey, which starts down in Cornwall and ends 1,200 miles later here.
So that signpost, they used to charge you in the 60s to take pictures with it, and became so popular that now it's just a permanent installation in the town.
Surrounding it, you'll find a visitor center, some silly benches and art that you can take pictures with, a few small shops, and of course a brewery. The brewery is especially fun as they have lots of beers that highlight John O'Groats. In case you're wondering where it got its name, it was named after a person who used to run a ferry that connected the mainland to one of the surrounding islands.
This is a fun little touristy end of the road type spot. There's lots of places to take pictures, there's a brewery, there's things to eat. It's a fun little stop.
By this time we were reasonably exhausted from the day, but you know that we love to push through exhaustion and see as much as possible, and so we headed out to Dunnet Head. While John O'Groats claims the northernmost point, this is actually the northernmost point of mainland Britain. And so we figured that no North Coast road trip would be complete if we didn't see it. Plus there's a great lighthouse out here that was built in 1831 by Robert Stevenson, the grandfather of Robert Louis Stevenson who wrote Treasure Island.
Pops, we started in the south of England on Durdledore, and we have made it to the northernmost point in Britain. That's awesome.
It's such a cool spot. I love these kinds of markers to kind of let you know that you've achieved something by going to a place like this.
Much like the Sea Stacks area, there's lots of amazing coastal views from up here looking down from the lighthouse.
No drones are allowed here because of nesting seabirds, it says. All that's left for tonight is to check into our hotel.
If you're planning a trip on the North Coast 500, be sure to plan way in advance as there's only a couple decent sized towns that actually have hotels on the entire 500 miles. So for us, we plan to be in the town of Thurso for our first night.
Here's our room. At least it has a decent bed separation. We've had smaller bed separations on this trip so far. Very dimly lit room, and It looks like the toilet seat's broken. The positive is that it has 2 beds. That's basically all that we require on a trip like this, but you never know what you're gonna get in Scotland. We've had a different type of hotel basically every single night since we've been here. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Starting day 2, we walked into the town to explore a little bit before heading back to our hotel to grab some breakfast. Something I learned when I was walking around is that Thurso means Thor's River, and I thought that was an epic name for a city.
The highlight of my morning so far is I walked in and I said, hey, the toilet seat was broken and was not installed. And she goes, yeah, I know. So they put us in the room with knowing the toilet seat was not working. It's wild. It's a shared gas pump. So you got to wait for somebody to pump and then they go in and pay. Then once they pay, you can do it. Never seen anything like that before.
We got on the road early today as we knew this was going to be one of the longest days of the entire road trip with how many miles and hours of driving we had to put in.
We've got our first real Scotland morning today with rain and fog.
We can't complain about rain or fog at all as we spent about 17 days driving through the entirety of the United Kingdom and we basically had 1 day of rain. Every time we stopped and talked to locals about the weather, they were telling us that they'd never seen weather like this before, and so we were very blessed to experience it. The rain didn't even last that long, and pretty soon we were greeted by some of the most remote and beautiful scenery we'd seen so far. Also, this is when we started seeing the 1-lane roads where you have to watch for the people coming the other direction and then look for a pullout to let them go around. We didn't really stop much on the first hour and a half or so of the drive as we had to put a lot of miles in today, and this wasn't one of the sections that had a lot of things to do. When we passed through the small village of Hope and then went around a bend, we were greeted by Loch Arable, which was described as one of the wildest, most atmospheric stretches on the NC 500. I don't even know how to describe where this viewpoint is, but I did mark it on the map that you can see in the Patreon. I especially loved how there was this little house and fishing pier right on the island in the middle of the loch.
It's too windy to say anything out there, but this drive has just been incredibly beautiful today.
The loch is massive and just driving around to the other side is about 35 minutes. I read online that during World War II it was a key anchorage and it's where dozens of German U-boats surrendered after the war ended. Also, like I mentioned earlier, basically the entire rest of this drive is 1 to 1.5 lanes. So you can't go very fast and you have to be very cautious around the blind turns to make sure there's not another car coming. As we were driving, we were greeted with another fantastic view at a place called Kennabinya Beach. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I mean, it's not a nice day for the beach because of how cold it is, but that looks like something I'd actually like to jump into. Plus, check it out, they have a zip line you can do here. That looks nuts.
I can see how this drive got so popular. There's just nothing like the views and the remoteness that you feel when you're in this section. For us though, the next stop was one of the most unique natural wonders on the entire drive known as Smoo Cave. There's a small parking lot here and it's cash only, but unfortunately for us, they weren't offering tours when we were there. Even without a tour though, you can walk down the steps and you can actually enter into the cave and go in and explore a little bit.
And there it is, the entrance to Smoo Cave.
Smoo Cave is supposedly the largest sea cave in Britain with a 50-foot high entrance, and the name comes from a Norse word that means hiding place.
This is a humongous cave. I had no idea it would be this big. There's a person over there for reference.
The main feature of the cave that you can access without the tour is a waterfall that's located in the back.
This is where the waterfall would be, but unfortunately with the drought, there's no waterfall. But it's right there. You just have to imagine what a waterfall would look like right there.
I was bummed to not be able to see the waterfall here, but this cave is so cool, even the small portion that you're able to explore. I also read a sign that said that they've uncovered evidence of human use going back thousands of years inside the cave.
Look who entered the cave. Pops, his second cave of the trip. I don't know, you might be start being a caver now.
Got the ceiling. I don't know if I can climb up that ceiling. But...
There's not a lot to see here without taking the tour, but definitely do not skip it. It's amazing to experience.
During certain times of the year, mainly the summer, you can actually take a tour on a boat that goes deeper into the cave, but they're not offering that today. And it does say up there that you need to bring cash, so if you're wanting to do that, make sure you have cash. It was 15 pounds on the sign I saw at the top.
Heading on, it was only about a 5-minute drive to our next stop at Durness Beach.
It's very windy and cold right now, but we're walking out to that point.
This is another amazing beach, and I would have loved to have spent time just hanging out in the sand, but unfortunately it wasn't a nice day for us.
I can't believe how incredibly beautiful the North Coast 500 is though. Every turn just blows my mind with places like this that greet you.
This trail above the beach led out to the Sango Sands viewpoint. This viewpoint sitting up on the cliffs above the beach offers panoramic views of the sweeping golden sand, turquoise sea, and rugged headlands. It's really easy to access off the main road, especially if it's not too windy, and it's definitely worth it for the views.
It's so beautiful up here! Wow!
I hope it's coming through in this video, but my dad and I were blown away the entire time we were on this road trip.
After doing that viewpoint, it didn't look like anything was going to be open, but luckily we found the cheese and toasty shop. So we're getting a sandwich. Views while we wait.
The spot we found was the winner of the best quick bite on Scotland's North Coast 500.
Unfortunately, our nice sun changed into rain, so we're gonna eat in the car. I'm not gonna argue this is the best quick bite. The fact that they put those big pieces of sea salt, when you see that, you know it's gonna be good. And this is definitely strong. Plus, Pop's got a haggis one as well. The rain stopped for a half second and I got half of my sandwich left. I couldn't resist going out to eat with this view. I mean, this is already an incredible sandwich. I was happy with it in the car, but I think it tastes even better out here. North Coast 500.
As you leave here, the road finally begins to head south and it goes along the Kyle of Durness. Again, this is a very remote section of the road, and after about 10 miles you actually leave the water and you head inland for the next 30 or 40 miles. Here we got amazing views of the surrounding mountains, there was even waterfalls way out in the distance, and of course there was lots of areas where we needed to pull over to let the other traffic pass by.
As I said, a lot of these places that say open online are not open.
It's definitely a good idea to have some drinks and snacks with you, and be sure to fill up on gas whenever you see a gas station, as there's lots of remote stretches without any services. During this section I chatted a lot with Pops about what it would be like to live out here, as you go 5 to 10 miles and see a house, and then another 5 to 10 miles before you saw the next one.
This is just a random viewpoint off the side of the road, but I mean, how do you pass up views like that? Also, I know nothing about this, but if you want to visit the UK's highest waterfall, I guess you can look that up online. Looks like it's a boat trip.
After an hour of driving, we reached another famous spot along the North Coast 500, the Kelskue Bridge. This sweeping, curved concrete bridge was an engineering marvel when it was completed in 1984.
This bridge replaced a ferry service that existed since the early 19th century. Crazy to imagine that just a little while ago we would have had to take a ferry across this and we wouldn't have been able to drive the bridge.
This bridge is popular for photography with access to both sides, so you can get many different angles to take pictures. It's become a symbol of the North Coast 500 and it often shows up in tourism ads that promote the region.
That is such a cool bridge to see. It is so windy, I can't say anything when we're out there, but beautiful views, and the way that the weather is right now is beautiful too, with the yellows and then the blue sky and all of the clouds. That's so cool.
If the weather's better when you're there, you can walk across the bridge if you're interested.
There's a little trail on this side, but the wind is so bad, I don't think we're gonna last very long.
Here's the views from the other side, but I lost a hat and basically got blown over, so that's all the shots I got. As you cross the bridge, this is where you're going to have to decide whether you want to take the alternate route or the main route. If you take the main route, it'll add about an hour and a half onto your drive.
So we took a short detour onto the alternate route, found a place to pull off on the side, there's not a lot of parking, and then you hike up this canyon to get to the waterfall.
This trail is only a half-mile round trip, but it's not a particularly easy trail because you're climbing in and out of the water if the water level's high, or you're climbing on rocks to get around it. With the drought that we were talking about earlier though, it was basically just rock hopping the whole way as there wasn't a ton of water.
That's an amazing waterfall right along the side of the road. Do note, if you come in a rainy season, this could be unpassable to get to the base, I would think, because of the water coming off of it.
This is a way more impressive waterfall than I was anticipating. It's probably about 100 feet high or so. Even though there was a lot of cars parked along the side of the road, it still feels like a hidden gem with the undeveloped trail and not a lot of people out here. That could be because it's really far away from anything, but I mean, I'll take it as a hidden gem. That's well worth the effort. It's a fantastic waterfall to see on the drive. From here you can keep following the alternative route, but we're gonna go back and do the actual North Coast 500, which adds about an hour and 15 minutes to the drive today. While we always try to do every mile of the route that we can, I wouldn't recommend that most people do the regular route unless you're really looking for an adventure. This is a windy, small one-lane road for around 60 miles, so you cannot go fast and you have to be watching constantly to see if people are gonna come around the bend. This driving is not for the faint of heart. This entire section is one lane with little passing areas, but in between it's super narrow. There's rock walls on one side, there's drops on the other side, there's tree tunnels, and you can barely see anybody coming. So if you decide to take this section, just be prepared. That's all I gotta say. So here's this offshoot that we took right here. We came in and we're going to here, and then we're gonna take it all the way around and back out. This is our first stop on this portion of the drive, the Drum Bag Viewpoint. At this viewpoint, you'll find a tiny parking area for about 6 cars, and there is a bathroom located about a 5-minute walk down the road. And as you can see, this is a stunning viewpoint looking out over lochs and peaks out in the distance. Heading on, the difficulties of the one-lane road became even more difficult with all of the local sheep that were walking the roads. But the views over the water and coastline easily made up for it and had our jaw dropping at every bend. We're heading out to another waterfall. This is actually the road that we've been driving. You can see how narrow it is, and it's about 1.75 miles to get to the falls. Round trip. You can see the waterfall way out there in the distance. Again, there's not infrastructure for tourism out here. This place has almost no parking. There's a few spots down by the beach, and then you walk along the road and then walk out on these short paths to get to the waterfall. This is known as Clashnessie Falls, and if you don't know where you're going, you definitely won't find it. I left my rain jacket in the car and I feel the rain starting to come, so I'm just going really fast. I was just taking his time. He was smarter and brought his rain jacket. This waterfall really feels remote, and we saw one couple there that we had seen at 7 other stops along the road. It was basically us and them doing this drive the entire day. When you get to the falls, it's about a 50-foot, 15-meter drop over a rocky cliff into a small creek. You see how big the falls are with those people that are right below it. That's definitely impressive. I'm putting this away because the rain's coming again, but if you do the drive all the way out here, that's definitely a good waterfall to check out. As you leave here, you're about halfway through the normal section of the route as you head back to the alternative. Also, there's basically no infrastructure on this route heading out from here. That being said, the views are incredible, especially the geology with all the rocks that you see out here. This was very different than the rest of the drive. These areas right here are peat bogs, and we actually saw some parts back there where they had the cut up peat that they were probably using for fire.
Better yet, whiskey.
You guys, look at that view. Wow, it's so beautiful out there. Right on the other side where I was just excited about that view, here's this view. Oh my gosh. It's just magical out here. A couple of sheep enjoying the view as well. We sat here for a good 30 minutes. We didn't want to pull ourselves away from this view. You're welcome to stay here overnight, but donations are welcome as well. And this is the route that we took right here. We left, went all the way around, and we're coming back. Let's see where we're at right there. As we made our way back around after our 2-hour detour, we were very happy to be back on the main 2-lane road, which is massive compared to what we were driving. The road here was taking us to one of the spots I was most excited to see, the ruins of Ardvreck Castle. The rain was coming in, so Pops opted to stay in the car, but I headed out as I had to see this 16th century stronghold. It was built around 1590, and today only a single crumbling tower remains on the rocky island sticking out into the loch. Pops decided to sit this one out, and he's probably the smarter one, but how could I pass up a ruins of a castle right along the water? I mean, this is just amazing to be able to walk right up to the ruins. Nobody even here. The castle was used until the late 1600s, and then it's said that in 1730 it was struck by lightning, setting it ablaze and leaving the only pieces that you see left today. I read online that there's a lot of associated ghost stories with this castle, and that people have said that they've seen ghosts walking around the ruins late at night. You guys, Scotland is just on a different level than everything else is. I'm just constantly blown away by everything I'm seeing here. I thought maybe Pops was a smarter one because of the way the weather was on the way out, but it was sunny, perfect out there. I was the only person out there. Pops made the wrong choice. That is epic to see. Now we're heading on and we're gonna check into our hotel to end a crazy day on the North Coast 500 and our Scotland road trip. This is one of those days I'll never forget. The amount of beauty we saw on the drive today is just incomprehensible. It's one of the most beautiful days I've ever had in my life, I think. As you drive away from the castle, be sure to look back and you can get this epic view of the castle with the mountains surrounding it. We were beyond exhausted from our amazing day, and we had about 35 minutes left to drive to get to our stop for the night. Along the way, we only pulled out once to take in the views of the beach, and we were able to see a rainbow greeting us as we got into town. We chose to stay in the small coastal village of Ullapool, and basically this is your only option if you're looking for a hotel or Airbnb on this stretch of the road. I would highly recommend that you book this well in advance, as I looked about 2 months in advance and was able to get the last thing in this entire town. There's just not a lot of options here, and if you're not driving a camper van, you definitely gotta take what you can get. This is our room for the night. We had to book on Airbnb as 2 months ago there was no available hotels, but look, Pop's got a nice big bed. I got a good small bed, and we have a table that looks out on the water. How do you beat that? And we got a bathroom in there that Pops is hiding in.
Beautiful. Nice big shower.
It's a lot better than what we had last night. We actually have a toilet seat. And we even have a shared patio. We hadn't eaten in about 6 hours, but we were exhausted and didn't really want to go out, so we had to force ourselves to go walk into the town and find something to eat. So we were going to eat at this restaurant, but we found the chippy, and it's won a ton of awards, and so we're like, well, we gotta have the best chippy in the North winner from 2023, the best chippy in the Northwest 2024. So fish and chips and a little ice cream to go with it. All right, here we go. Look at that. They said that this is fresh caught every single day here. And they also were really nice people there, and we were talking to them for a while, and they gave us these things called Scottish tablets, Miss Tilly's tablets or something. It's like a fudge to try, which is super cool of them, and I'm a big fan, so I think I might have to take some of these home for the family. But yeah, let's dive into the fish now. I'm giving this spot a good review. The fish tastes very fresh. They have their own homemade tartar sauce. Plus, I think I'm really enjoying my view as well, but I would say this is a pretty strong spot for dinner.
I absolutely would agree, and the crust on the fish is really nice too. It's different than others that we've had. It just seems fresher.
And with that, our second day on the North Coast 500 is over. We were able to sleep in a little bit more in the morning since we had put the really busy day behind us, and then we were greeted by an amazing breakfast spread at our Airbnb. I'll leave a link to this one in the description, as the people who worked here were awesome and the food they served us was so delicious. We grabbed fuel since we didn't know when the next opportunity to get it would be, and then we headed about 30 minutes to our first stop of the day. This area is known as the Corrie Shallot Gorge National Nature Reserve. We're heading out on our first trail of the day. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of this gorge, but we're walking a gorge to an overlook for a waterfall and a cool suspension bridge. The trail here is about a mile each way, and it meanders through a beautiful forest following a creek for most of the way. It is downhill the way there and then uphill on the way back, but it's not too steep. Such a beautiful hike. Look at the moss growing on the trees. This is just one of the random waterfalls along the trail. It's called the Step Falls. You'll actually pass a couple smaller waterfalls as you proceed down to the gorge and the main falls. Here's our third waterfall. This one's called the Rocky Falls. I didn't know what to expect from this trail, as I hadn't really done much research beforehand, but we haven't even got to the main falls or the suspension bridge, and we've already seen two amazing waterfalls, so definitely don't miss this one on your drive. We're 2 minutes away from the bridge and the falls. And just like that, we reached the suspension bridge, and note that they don't allow drones here.
So this bridge has a little bit of a sway to it. I think Pops is gonna hate it, but let's see when he gets on. I was wondering how far you were gonna get out on this. Oh, look at he's being brave. It sways a little bit too.
Lovely bridge.
Pops got about 10 feet out.
Once you get halfway out, you can look directly down into the canyon below you with the waterfall basically flowing under the bridge.
That bridge has a legit bounce to it. I'm not surprised you didn't make it very far. It was also a lot higher than I anticipated it being too. I'm heading out to the viewpoint, which is another 5-minute walk.
This viewpoint is what allows you to really see how big the gorge is with the waterfall way out in the distance. Plus, it's pretty cool to be able to walk out on this elevated platform that you can see right through the bottom of.
Wow, who is that? Is that Pops walking across the bridge right there? Wow. Check it out. There's proof that Pops actually walked on the bridge. Well done.
The gorge here stretches out for over a mile, and at its deepest it plunges about 200 feet down. The waterfall itself has a 150-foot drop.
Wow, that was an incredible waterfall. Great start to the day. Scotland road trips are something else. All right, 6 people allowed. There's 5 on right now. That means I can go. You see the viewpoint I was at? It's right there. Amazing view of the gorge. The best part is watching how confident everybody is as they get up to the bridge and then they take their first step and it moves a little bit and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to walk out on that anymore. There's a viewpoint about 5 minutes past the waterfall. It's probably a nice viewpoint at some point, but right now, not so great.
As we were leaving, we entered rain for about 20 minutes, but luckily it didn't last too long and the sun came out quickly afterwards. During this section of the drive, we were just taking in the views again, especially as we were going along Little Loch Broom. There's actually a pullout about 3/4 of the way through the loch, and it was cool to be able to get out and to take in some of the views. There was even a picnic table there.
So here's just another random viewpoint on the drive. Nothing special, I guess. Look at this, incredible.
No signs, nothing. It's so epic. There's the pullout for the viewpoint right there, leading to this.
From what I could tell, this spot was known as Grunard Bay, looking over Little Grunard Cove. Honestly, this might have been my favorite viewpoint of the entire trip. I almost lost the drone here because it was so windy, as you can see in this time-lapse clip that I shot. We continued driving on the coast, then along beautiful lochs, then under staggering mountains on both sides of us until we made it to the town of Gairloch. This is another one of the bigger towns on this drive, and here you can find a gas station and some places to eat. We stopped at this welcome center, art gallery, and souvenir shop, and that's where we found lunch.
We're all in on these Scottish tablets now, so we got these ones that are made locally, and they're very good.
Kind of like Josh said, kind of a combination somewhere between brown butter and brown sugar. Very nice.
Pops is continuing his culinary adventure with a cheese and baked beans toasty.
How can I pass up on a cheese and baked beans grilled cheese sandwich? I may have created something new now.
You're gonna make that for yourself now?
For all you guys who follow Josh, something new for you to try. You can make it at home. You can all imagine what it tastes like. That's really nice. It tastes like cheese and baked beans.
Yum.
I went with a normal ham and cheese sandwich, which I think was the better call, but Pops raved about it for the rest of the trip.
So we thought that was the spot that had the North Coast 500 merchandise, but we found lunch, but this is the actual spot, this grocery store. So they do have some merch, but unfortunately it is cash only, and we don't have any cash, so I guess we're not getting anything today. So they told us the gas station might also have North Coast 500 merch, so we're gonna try that. They do got some shirts back here, some map shirts.
Pops always tries to find a t-shirt to be a souvenir whenever we go on a trip together.
Love driving. That's debatable how much I love driving. Appreciate the sentiment though. Pop's got his shirt, which I'm sure will appear in another road trip, but this is my little souvenir that I took home. This tiny Highland cow to sit on my shelf. I'm not a souvenir person. It's like I just want something, a little small thing, like a little small memento. This is a sticker that Pop's got. It's really cool to see all the names of all of the little towns and villages and cities along the route.
So yeah, shout out to the Gulf gas station. If you're looking for a North Coast 500 souvenir, that's the spot to get one. From here, the road headed inland, and it was more one-lane driving with some great mountain views and even more loch views around us. We pulled out whenever we got the chance to just sit along the side of the road and take in the views for a few minutes.
We only got a couple more stops on our North Coast 500 road trip, and this next one is a 5 to 10 minute walk to Victoria Falls. Surprising how many waterfalls there are on this last day of our trip. That was only about a 3-minute walk to the viewing platform.
This little hidden gem was named after Queen Victoria, who visited the area during her 1877 trip to the Highlands.
It's a nice little waterfall for how easy it is to access, and there's also a little bit longer of a trail that takes us back to the parking lot, so we're gonna do that.
We didn't see another person on this trail, and we took the loop which headed up towards the top of the waterfall and allowed us to see the slick rock that kind of leads into where the falls are at. With how low the water level was, we could actually walk out pretty far onto it, and it was cool to see.
The loop trail takes you up to a great viewpoint over the loch. Yeah, it's definitely worth doing the loop. You can see the cars down here. It's not very long of a trail. You get to see the waterfall and you get to see this view. Shout out to Pops who told us to do the loop trail because it was nice to come up here and get this view. I still can't fathom how good this weather has been for us. I mean, we've had our share of rain, but overall it's just been beautiful and sunny for 90% of the time that we've been in Scotland.
So you've seen these in Josh's photographs all over Scotland. This is called a common gorse, and it must be different varieties. It's an evergreen, but some of the other ones have really pokey kind of things on it. The other thing about it is it's supposed to smell like coconut. Let's see here. Maybe slightly. I mean, coconut, well, I just got it, yeah. I just got it. Coconut is not a very strong scent, but it definitely has a subtle scent of coconut. It's really cool.
Heading on, we entered into one of the most renowned areas of the drive, known as the Torridon. This area is famous for its dramatic mountain range, which is often called one of the most beautiful in the United Kingdom. And while we didn't get to do any hiking here, just driving along and seeing these mountains on both sides of you is amazing. As we were driving, we screeched to a halt as we saw some Highland coos right on the side of the road, and we were able to pull over to check them out.
These cows might have the best view ever right here.
They weren't very active and didn't come close to us, but this is one of the most iconic sights to see on any Scotland road trip, so it was cool to be able to check it off on this portion. Continuing on, the views just kept getting better and better as we made it to the Loch Torridon viewpoint. This viewpoint really helped you to understand the majesty of the area, with the massive mountains on both sides of you and the beautiful loch stretching out into the distance. Even though it was windy, Pops and I sat here for a good 30 minutes.
So it may seem like we haven't stopped at a lot of places today, but this is the definition of the route being the destination. There's not a lot of pullouts, and you basically have to drive this route and experience it for yourself, as videos are never going to do it justice.
I think Josh and I just driving along here have said, this is beautiful, this is beautiful, this is beautiful. I think more than almost any other time. It's just, everywhere you look, you're just overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the random pullout that we're at right now.
As we left this viewpoint behind, this is the last time that you have to make a decision on what direction you want to go. This is where you have to decide if you want to take the long road into Applecross, which officially completes this section of the North Coast 500 before you head back to Inverness. This adds a few hours onto the drive, and we unfortunately didn't have the time to spare on this trip. But we couldn't end our road trip without visiting the Bailach na Baa, which is supposed to be the craziest part of the North Coast 500 and one of the craziest roads in Scotland.
I love the moodiness of the mountains with the rain. It just adds such an interesting texture to them. And you can even see little waterfalls coming down the hillside. Right there and right there.
So we just decided to drive up to the pass so that we could say we experienced it and then drive back down and continue on towards Skye.
All right, so this is Applecross Pass that we're about to do, which is the crazy pass that you do at the end of this trip. It said it's not for learning drivers and it's not for big cars, so we'll see how this goes. How you feeling, Pops?
I feel fine. I mean, we've been in a lot of roads that have not been perfect cars.
There's been a lot of narrow roads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Hasn't been too bad so far, but the rain doesn't help. There's the pass right up there. We are almost there.
Until you get to the pass and start doing the switchbacks, the worst part of this drive is just the other drivers, some of which come screaming around the corners and you have to try to figure out how to get away from them. But then when you get to the switchbacks, the road becomes very narrow with almost nowhere to pull out except on the major turns. Also, I can't imagine what it would be like if you ran into an RV or someone who wasn't paying attention to the size of their car for this road. I imagine it could take hours to get around a car like that, especially on some of the crazy turns. I mean, just look at some of these bends as you're making your way up to the top of the pass. Unfortunately, when we made it to the top, the weather moved in pretty quickly and we didn't get to enjoy it for very long as the clouds came in and it was getting hard to see and the rain was coming down and we figured we should probably get back down.
And with the rain, that is the end of our North Coast 500 road trip. If you want to continue driving through Scotland with us, click up here. If not, we'll see you on the next video. Pops, what'd you think?
This place is amazing. I don't know what I'd expected, but it was just beyond anything I could have imagined. Beautiful, beautiful place. And people are wonderful. Food is great, haggis.
You can watch Pop's haggis tasting video up here as well. But yeah, one of the most beautiful drives we've ever done. All right, see you on the next one.
This isn't the end of our Scotland road trip. You can see the full 10-day journey when it's posted on this channel. I'll link to it in the description. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.